Hello, friends, and welcome to the beginning of our Lenten series for 2019, where we will be focusing primarily on the theme of return. And everything that we will be doing at West End this Lenten season will be designed to help us think about what it is to turn our attention back to God at this time, to look to God to help us mend those places in our lives that might need healing, and also to turn back to a life of discipleship as we seek to do what it is that God would have us do in the world, be the people that God would have us be, and come back to the love of God that makes life worth living and that brings true joy and happiness to our lives as we not only reflect on the life of discipleship, but as we reflect on the promise of Easter that is to come after this Lenten season. This year I have invited many of you to read along with a particular book called The Return of the Prodigal Son by Henri Nouwen. And in this book, Henri Nouwen reflects on his own journey toward God, his own pursuit of trying to allow God's love to take up residence in the center of his life, to sense what it is to have God at the core of his being. And he does that in an interesting way. He was drawn in at a certain point in his life to the story of the prodigal son, and most especially to a particular painting of that story done by the famous author Rembrandt. And Henri Nouwen and Rembrandt are from different ages and times, but were both Dutch, and he found a spiritual companion in Rembrandt. And in exploring Rembrandt's most famous painting of the prodigal son, and also looking at Rembrandt's story, during the book, Henri Nouwen reflects both on his experience of growing to love this painting, of growing to know more about Rembrandt's life, and also of his own journey towards the back end of his life, away from academia. Henri Nouwen was a priest and a professor and also an activist, and he stepped away from a lot of that towards the end of his life to become a minister in the L'Arche communities, which are communities that work with people who have different mental disorders. And so he talks about that journey and talks about letting go of many of the things that he found meaning in his life as he sought to return to God. And so we really have three things that we'll be using and hearing about. It'll be three lenses. It'll be the lens of Nouwen's own life journey, reflecting on the painting by Rembrandt and Nouwen's reflections on that painting, and then also the prodigal son story itself. Before we get deeply into the book, though, I want to invite each of you to encounter the story and the parable of the prodigal son once again. So today your leader is going to help you walk through a process of Lectio Divina, or divine reading, of this parable as you seek to listen for how that particular story may be speaking into your life at this time. And Nouwen's writing also invites us into the story. So this series of lessons and series of explorations will be as much a spiritual journey as it is an educational journey. So rather than a straight-up Bible study, we're really invited to ponder and think about what it is to experience God and how it is that we might think about our experience of God through the lenses of the characters in the story of the prodigal son. So the younger son, the elder son, and the father as well. So today you will do a little bit of Lectio Divina based around the prodigal son parable. And then you're also going to watch a video, at least part of a video if you don't have time to watch the whole thing, of Nouwen himself. And it will be a time where Nouwen talked about what it is to be beloved by God, what it is to be a beloved child of God, and to accept at the core of one's being that one is divinely loved. And as Nouwen talks about this, Nouwen reflects on the life of Jesus and the way that Jesus demonstrated believing that aspect of one's core identity in the love of God. And I think it's a powerful video that'll just give you a glimpse of who Nouwen was and a little bit about what Nouwen was about. And then in the coming weeks, you will actually ease into the book itself. And so next week, you will learn more about the life of Henri Nouwen. You'll learn more about the life of Rembrandt and his work. And then you will continue to explore the prodigal son parable as well. And as you do all of this, you will be asked to reflect as a group on the things that you are learning, hearing, and thinking during this time. So I hope today is a special time as you dig deep into the story of the prodigal son. You're going to hear it read several times. You're going to listen to how it speaks to you. And then I hope you also find the words of Henri Nouwen meaningful as he welcomes us into an experience of returning to God and understanding what it is to be a beloved child of God. And that will be our journey, each and every one of us this Lenten season, to consider what it is to return to God. We all have times in our lives where we need that sense of return. And no matter where we are in our lives right now, and I don't know what you bring to this Lenten journey and this Lenten season, but whether you're at a good place or a bad place or somewhere in between, it always is helpful to remember that we are beloved children of God, and it is always important for us to return back to God, to turn our lives and our intention back to the divine source of our identity, the divine source that can live not just in our head, but in our hearts, that can bring new meaning to our lives and can bring new life and even rebirth to our lives. So enjoy your first lesson this morning. If you need copies of the book, I can get those for you. The book can also be found on Amazon if you would like to purchase and read along. And all of our lessons will be able to be done without reading the book, but if you choose to read, I think you'll have a much deeper experience this Lenten season. So enjoy today, and I am looking forward to your participation in the weeks ahead. Have a happy Lent, and may God's peace be with you all. Amen.